Have you ever been dating a fearful avoidant attachment style or had a close relationship to one and found that they were really all in or all out? And it's like they could be super available, super present when they're with you in person, but the moment you're not in person, they kind of fall off. Well, in this video, if this sounds like either you or somebody you know, we're going to cover the top 3 reasons why this most commonly happens and really what to do about this if you find yourself being this way as a fearful avoidant attachment style yourself. Now, if you're not familiar with fearful avoidant attachment style, it's also sometimes referred to as disorganized attachment style, and it is one of 4 major attachment styles. Every single person has an attachment style, aka love style. And the fearful avoidant tends to be the hot and cold one in relationships. They're really warm and then they can be really cold. And there are different reasons for this that tend to exist within their early attachment patterns as children and how they get programmed. Now, what you'll know about fearful avoidant attachment styles, or what you should know if you don't, is that this attachment style as a fearful avoidant, they tend to be very hypervigilant. Now, what you'll see as a result of this and how this really contributes to the fearful avoidant being out of sight, out of mind, and really hot and kind of cold when they're not in your company or presence is hypervigilance is basically a subconscious strategy the fearful avoidant develops when they are going through really challenging experiences. So, what you'll see basically is that fearful avoidant attachment styles, when they're going through a lot of chaos and having to walk on eggshells in their upbringing, essentially what takes place is walking on eggshells all the time makes the fearful avoidant learn to always read between the lines, to be hyper attuned to micro expressions, body language, changes in tone of voice, how long somebody is making eye contact, all of their different patterns, and really pick them up very quickly. And the fearful avoidant does this because this, when they grow up in a chaotic environment, is what allows them to sort of read between the lines and know if more chaos is about to ensue. And so it allows them to either avoid the situation or protect themselves, go into essentially either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, being people pleasing mode. And when they're in this space and this hypervigilance sort of mechanism develops, this becomes a big part of how they learn to attach to people overall. They are constantly hypervigilant towards people in their lives and towards their external surroundings. And so, what ends up happening as a result of this is hypervigilance throws a fearful avoidant into being very, very attuned to their environment. So, if a fearful avoidant is out with friends, they're going to be super hyper focused and present with their friends the vast majority of the time. If they are in a situation where they're, participating in some kind of activity or hobby, they tend to be really, really present with what they're doing. And because of this, if you are not in their present environment, they probably won't be as connected. Fearful avoidants generally are not the best at being really consistent with text messages, being really consistent with ongoing communication all the time. They can be that way sort of in the honeymoon stages of building relationships, like really early on, but then they tend to kind of drop off quite easily. And so this hypervigilant state causes them to be really, really immersed in what's in front of them. Meaning, if you're not in front of them, you probably won't feel that same kind of connection to the fearful avoidant as you do then when you're in person, right? Or you do as much as when you're in person. So that's big reason number one. Big reason number two is fearful avoidants get burned out quite easily because of all of this hypervigilance and because of their patterns where they are often very codependent with the people around them. And they can really be, without boundaries, and they can really pour themselves into things so much in a boundaryless way that then they get exhausted, depleted, burnt out. And generally, when a fearful avoidant is burnt out, and when they feel like they don't have something to contribute, they often pull away. And the don't have something to contribute piece is because fearful avoidants are often in a cycle of constantly trying to earn their worth. So that out of sight, out of mind dynamic is they tend to be really, really pushing themselves, immersing themselves to the point of being exhausted. And when they are exhausted, they withdraw and they can kind of fall off the map. Big fearful avoidant coping mechanism. Before I share with you number 3, if you are a fearful avoidant and you notice some of these patterns, chances are you're really expending a lot of your energy in these like peaks and troughs, like these big highs and lows. And it's actually not a very healthy way of living. It's really important to have sort of a balance centered middle ground on an ongoing basis. And if this is something you struggle with, you can check out for free for 14 days. either our burnout course, our boundaries course, or our nervous system regulation course. In fact, you can do all three and probably get through all three of them within 14 days because they're each about an hour and a half long, give you the exact practical tips you need, the action steps to get there to really see breakthroughs in these areas of your life. And you can check them again out for 14 days for free just for the month of May. We are doing this 14-day free trial for Mental Health Month. So it also gives you access, by the way, to webinars. I do webinars throughout the week. We basically have a webinar every day, Monday through Saturday, with either myself, three of those different days, or with our trained coaches and facilitators. So if you want to check it out, join the link below. And reason number three that you will see if you're going to be out of sight, out of mind is because they generally really struggle with nervous system regulation. In other words, we have a parasympathetic nervous system mode, which is rest and digest mode. Then we have fight or flight mode, it's often referred to, or sympathetic nervous system mode. And really, fight or flight can be fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It's these trauma responses that we have. And we're only supposed to spend a little teeny bit of time in sympathetic nervous system mode when there's a huge stressor, right? If there's like, you are being chased by a dog in your neighborhood that's rabid or wild, or, you just avoid a car accident and you swerve, you're supposed to have this peak state where you go into this sympathetic nervous system mode. And it's a stress response designed to keep you safe and really hyper alert. But fearful avoidance generally are in this state quite frequently, like more frequently than is really healthy. And so from that space, again, you'll see these big cycles of burnout. We can't sustain sympathetic nervous system without getting exhausted, burned out, or even experiencing like health issues long term, like chronic fatigue issues, or just other immune system issues, because you're in this constant state that's constantly releasing a lot more cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline on a more regular basis than is really healthy, and then really allows you to recharge. So really important things to pay attention to if you see some of that. And you may often see that you actually end up in more chaotic situations when you're chronically in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. Because when we're making decisions from those modes of being, I'll actually make a separate video about this, then we're more likely to sort of attract or recreate chaos in our lives without meaning to. It's happening really at this sort of subconscious and even unconscious level of mind and body. So really important things to pay attention to if you are a fearful avoidant. This is also, why the fearful avoidance out of sight or out of mind. If you're on the other side of a fearful avoidant, then you're having this experience. And it's not that the fearful avoidant like doesn't care about you. It's usually that they are overwhelmed with themselves and their own lives. And these cycles sort of tend to repeat. So try not to take it personally. And you can always communicate and let somebody know what you're feeling and what you're needing should you want to progress that relationship along. So I hope this made sense. Thank you so much for watching and for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying this content. I put daily videos out every single day, 7 days a week. Would love to have you as a subscriber. And if you hit the notification bell, you won't miss any. So looking forward to seeing you in future videos, and thank you for watching.